And welcome to you're watching a recording of Tuesday Night Live Stream because nobody's watching live. That's okay. This happens all the time. I once again tied the world's record for the fewest people watching a live stream. So, a couple of months from now, it'll be December 31st, 2025. December 31st, 2025 being the actual 25th anniversary of the actual end of the millennium. If you've been paying attention to the Blathercast, you know that the millennium ended not on December 31st, 1999, but on December 31st, 2000. That is a separate discussion. But this year, when the clock strikes midnight and the ball in Times Square begins to drop, life in New York City is likely to never be the same because they are going to have a new mayor. And metaphorically speaking, this is what it's likely to look like when the ball reaches the ground. First of all, thank you for checking in. It's been 3 weeks since I've last done a live stream, and been traveling. So the grandkids, I'm kind of stuffed up right now because I love my grandchildren, I really do, but they are little disease buckets. I'm not going to not hug them. What are you going to do? So I'm a little sniffly tonight. But anyway, yeah. So I haven't been on for the last couple of weeks. In that time, I go on social media quite a bit. I go to YouTube, I go to Facebook, I go to Twitter. I can't come to call it X. It's Twitter. What are you gonna? Yeah, forget it. So this week I got the trifecta actually because I look for things that inspire me, and I found something on Facebook this week that I found very inspirational, and I found something on Twitter this week that I found very inspirational. So while I'm opening about the New York City mayor election, I've said all I have to say about it. I want to say this, though. Please stop blaming Curtis Sliwa. Sliwa legitimately had his party's nomination. He was in the race legitimately. The only illegitimate candidate in there, besides the guy who got elected, was Andrew Cuomo. If you want to blame somebody, blame Andrew Cuomo. Blame the whole Democrat Party. The best they could come up with was Andrew Cuomo against somebody who's borderline unmentionable. Anyway, I came across something on Twitter. This was posted by a woman who calls herself the Persian Jewess. So let me back up a little bit from that. I was having a conversation with somebody just a few days ago, talking about ancient civilizations, and I was talking about how from that part of the world, the Jews are still around. No, not the Babylonians, not the Philistines. The Persians are still around. And the person I was talking to said, yeah, but the Jews and Persians hate each other. I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Going back to the time of Cyrus the Great, Persian people and the Jewish people have always been okay with each other. It's the regime. It's not the Persian people. It's the regime. Let me say that again. It's not the Persian people. It's the regime, and they've been in power since 1979. And let me read you, now I'm going to read you a tweet from a woman called the Persian Jewess. And I'm wondering, by the way, usually 6 minutes into the podcast, I'll have somebody watching. So something is odd. If nothing else, I'm making a recording. But and again, I'm not complaining. I'll just blather. It's a lot less pressure when nobody's watching because I can edit this shit later. Anyway, I'm going to read this post from the Persian Jewess. I'll put it on my screen and I'll read it with you. After my parents fled the Islamic regime in 1979, they found safe haven in Queens, New York. That's where I was born, in a tiny apartment in Queens. My parents had nothing. Not money, not connections, not even the ability to speak English. Unlike Zoran Mandani, I didn't go to a fancy private school. I went to a New York City public school that was so crowded there weren't even enough desks for each student. Half the time, I sat on the radiator in the back of the room and took notes on my lap. I rode the MTA bus home while both my parents worked to put food on the table and rebuild their lives. And they did rebuild because in America, and only in America, capitalism gave them a real chance to start again. The people supporting Mamdani are just like him, a bunch of entitled rich kids who have no clue how lucky they are, and even less of a clue why they've been conditioned to hate America. They don't know what it's like to buy shoes 2 sizes too big so you don't outgrow them before the end of the school year, to act as a translator for your parents at 6 years old, to claw your way from having nothing to achieving something. And today they celebrate because they're too dumb or radicalized, or both, to realize they're falling for the same Islamist Marxist lies that caused my parents to flee Iran in the first place, and to destroy a city that was once a hopeful refuge for millions of people who just wanted a better life. People like me and my family. What a sad, sad day. My heart is absolutely broken for New York City. And she closes with the iconic I Love New York that we saw on a million T-shirts back in the day. I read that because I've talked plenty about the mayor election. Hey, I got 2 people watching. Yay. Okay. For a second, I thought I was shadow banned on YouTube. Anyway, I've said so much about the election. I've said so much about the implications of Mamdani being elected. They didn't, Sliwa, God love him. I remember the Guardian Angels back in the late 70s when I was driving a cab in New York City. And he was doing great work. I didn't realize he had been the perennial Republican candidate for mayor, never getting, anything near even 35% of the vote. But the Democrats didn't give us a choice. Andrew Cuomo, a failed governor, against whatever adjective you want to use for this Mamdani character. As a person who grew up in New York City, I love that city. I want to go back and visit. I've been back to visit. I love staying there. I love the food. It's to me, it's the food capital of the world, except for Mexican. California has it over New York City when it comes to Mexican. But the best Chinese food, the best Jewish delicatessens, the best pizza. Anyway, I'm sad about it. I don't, as of midnight, 2026, January 1st, I don't feel safe going back there. Let's see what happens. Again, I'm rooting for, it's such a mixed bag because the things he's talking about aren't going to work. I understand there's already been some major resignations. He wants to have these government-controlled grocery stores. I think one has to only look at Kansas City to see why that doesn't work. He wants to defund the police. He thinks prisons serve no purpose. Hey, I wish he was the mayor in 1975 when I got arrested. Maybe I wouldn't have done time. Who knows? But I really, really worry for my native city, and I just really hope that somehow either he doesn't try to do the things he's talking about and moderates or something, or things get so bad that he gets kicked out of office. And I have no idea who the deputy mayor is going to be, but whoever that is has got to be better than Zohran Mamdani. And in the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that. Let's turn to something a little more pleasant. Good genes. Now, we all saw this ad, and this caused such a stir. And there it is. Sydney Sweeney has great genes. I didn't know who Sydney Sweeney was. I looked up. I come to find out, season 1 of White Lotus. She's one of those nightmare teenagers. Not a good character. Good actress, I'm sure, but not a good character. She played a really bad girl in White Lotus. So that's who, if she looks vaguely familiar and you saw season 1 of White Lotus, that's Sydney Sweeney. So anyway, she's been taking a lot of flack for that ad. People calling it racist, people saying it's racist to sorry, cough. To celebrate having superior genes as a white person. People making all kinds of implications off of it. And once again, it's the racism card. I remember, the racism card gets played so much. I remember Shapiro, not Ben Shapiro, the Robert Shapiro, the OJ lawyer. I saw the Rolling Stones in 1995 at the Rose Bowl, and they started showing pictures on the big screen of different celebrities at the show. And Robert Shapiro's picture came on, the whole crowd booed after cheering everybody else because the whole OJ thing. And he made a comment. He said to Barbara Walters, she asked if they played the race card in the trial, and he said, "Not only did we play the race card, we dealt it from the bottom of the deck." So racism is everywhere. It somehow anti-Semitism. Well, I won't say it's become acceptable in polite society, but it's certainly become a popular source of clicks and likes. But racism is an entire story altogether. You could just nuke somebody's entire reputation by the implication of that person being racist. And it's what they were kind of trying to do to Sydney Sweeney. And I'm going to play you a little bit of an interview that she did with GQ. But I just got to say, and these are not my words. These are words I heard, but they ring true. When everything is racist, nothing is racist. So racism does exist. But when it becomes about everything, voter ID is racist. Are you fucking kidding me? Georgia, the state of Georgia, lost the All-Star game. The All-Star game is supposed to be played in Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta. And because Georgia passed a voter ID law, they declared the whole state racist and took the All-Star game away. There's just so much of it. There's the whole, I don't understand it. I honestly thought that the election of Barry Obama would be iconic of ending racial tension in this country, and apparently it only began this new wave of it. It's really sad. So anyway, I'm drifting off into the whole racist thing, and I want to play a little bit of an interview that Sydney Sweeney did with GQ, and watch how this report. I'm only going to play a little segment of it, but watch how this reporter tries to manipulate Ms. Sweeney into saying what she wants her to say, and how Sydney Sweeney, gotta love her, does not take the bait and leads to a mic drop moment, in my humble opinion. So we got that on the screen. Yes, we do. Let me get myself off there, and let's hear what Sydney Sweeney had to say to GQ.
So I don't really see a lot of it.
You've made a really good case for keeping your thoughts and your life separate from that work. But the risk is that, there's a chance that somebody will get some idea about what you think about certain issues and feel like, I don't want to see Christy because of that. Like, do you worry about that?
No. If somebody is closed off because of something they read online to a powerful story like Christy, then I hope something else can open their eyes to being open to art and being open to learning. And I'm not going to be affected by that.
Yeah.
That was round one. Good on you, Sydney. Good on you. That was a really, really good answer. But it doesn't stop here.
Yeah. You've come here really willing to talk about this whole discourse that doesn't have that much to do with you, and I'm grateful for that. Is there something that you want to say about the ad itself? The Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Do you have
ad?
So she's really trying to lead her. She really wants Sydney Sweeney to apologize for the ad.
Spoke for itself.
You think the ad spoke for itself?
Yeah.
Okay. And the criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like, white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like, that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And
no, that was your criticism. Not general speaking criticism.
Since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
Mic drop. Mic drop. What a great answer. She was trying so hard to get Sydney Sweeney to take the race bait. And that's all that was race baiting. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the call for reparations. I'm sick of so much of it. If the only way to cure the injustices of the past, yes, there were injustices in the past, but if the only way to cure the injustices of the past is to artificially create, oh, I'm doing like AOC arm flap, and I got to stop. But if the only way to cure the injustices of the past is to artificially create opposite injustices in the present, then we are not only in trouble as a society, but we are, as a society, blind to our own affliction. I came across something else that really inspired me last night, though, and I want to present that and read it to you. And I want to kind of go over it line by line. This is something I believe, and if anybody disagrees, either say so in the comments or send me a DM at UNG714 on Twitter. That's Ugly Nasty Guy 714 on Twitter, because I think that there is something in what I'm about to read for everybody, no matter where you are on the political spectrum or the culture wars. This is from Facebook, of all things. This is actually the first time, if I'm not mistaken, I've ever shared something from Facebook, and this was posted on Facebook by Texas Tony. So Texas Tony posts this, and let's read it together. Intellectual loneliness isn't about wanting deep talks. It's about realizing how few people can tolerate complexity. It's noticing how people rush to have an answer, not to understand, but to feel right. It's watching people form entire worldviews off headlines, vibes, and whatever reels told them last. It's the silence that follows when you say something that doesn't fit neatly into someone's script. It's not arrogance, it's exhaustion from always having a code switch between what you actually think and what's safe to say around people who shut you down at nuance. And I am going to repeat that line because, like I say, I think there's a line in this little piece for everybody, and that little line there is mine. It's exhaustion from always having a code switch between what you actually think and what's safe to say around people who shut you down at nuance. And that, by the way, that goes triple at the holidays. But good Lord, it's been quite a 9-year journey ever since I said, no, I am not bending the knee to Hillary. I do not abide by this Democrat so-called nomination process where they just wanted to crown the queen. And boy, I was told, grow up. I was told, get over it. No, one does not just get over election fraud. And that was, again, if I go back to before the Democrat shenanigans, and I keep on talking about this because I'm still not over it. That's the last time there's real unity. There's been splintering. Well, the initial splintering was Bernie versus Hillary. 4 years later, I experienced the splintering of Bernie versus Tulsi. We thought that Tulsi was going to be the new populist candidate, and Bernie would kind of back off because he already failed once. But no, Bernie jumps in there and divides that whole base, and it got pretty nasty between the Tulsi people and the Bernie people, I got to say. Let me finish the piece, and then I'll talk a little more about this because I'm going off topic and I'm blathering. Anyway, I'm going to repeat my line again. It's exhaustion from always having a code switch between what you actually think and what's safe to say around people who shut down that nuance. And no one warns you. Once your brain learns to stretch, small talk doesn't just bore you, it alienates you. You're not looking for smart people. You're looking for people who are still thinking. And I could not agree with that more. And again, it's not as if I identify with every single line in there. But I just think truth is truth, and there's so much polarization, so much partisanship. Seeing something that's profound and nonpartisan, it's delicious, quite frankly. So, Texas Tony, you're invited to come on here and discuss this thing that you posted on Facebook, or anybody else. I think that that little piece really does a good job of dissecting this culture war thing that we find ourselves enmeshed with, a lot of us, for the last 9 years. I'm judged. I voted for Trump, and right away, people think that because I did that, I'm for so many of the things that he's. So yeah, I voted for Trump. I did not vote for deporting people who've been here for years, making a living, raising families. That's. But because I'm voting for Trump, I'm labeled as someone who supports the overreach of ICE, and it is overreach. I did vote for having a secure border, but perhaps the biggest factor in voting for Trump was my absolute disdain for the non-process the Democrats used once again in choosing their candidates. Let me phrase it more delicately in the parlance of my beloved native land, Brooklyn. Goes like this. If you shove something up my ass, don't be surprised if I just turn around and shit it out. Harris Waltz, give me a fucking break. And Mandami, same thing. But the split, the polarization and the partisanship. So we had this big beautiful bill. What happens? Every Republican votes for it. Every Democrat votes against it. Now we're looking at government shutdown. Every Republican votes for keeping the government open. All but 2 Democrats, John Fetterman and Angus, whatever, Maine guy. They voted with the Republicans. Every other Democrat votes no. Now they finally got the 60 votes they needed, and apparently a bill goes to Congress tomorrow, literally tomorrow, Wednesday, the 12th, that might reopen the government. And I feel really bad for people who aren't getting paid, and I especially feel bad and am fearful of the air traffic controllers being overtaxed. Anybody who saw the TV show Breaking Bad knows what happens when air traffic controllers are not paying attention. So, they deserve to be paid, and I'm glad that they finally came up with a way of paying these people for the jobs. I personally want to travel for Thanksgiving, and I'm not going anywhere if the air traffic controllers are staying home. I mean, who would? So let's see what happens with that tomorrow. But it's partisanship. That's what I'm sick of. I'm really sick of Blue No Matter Who. I really sick. I wrote a song that about how disgusted I am with Blue No Matter Who. But again, people are elected to the Senate and to Congress to represent their districts. They are not sent to Washington, D.C. to represent their party. And they're not sent to Washington, D.C. to represent their donors. One of the things I liked about the Bernie campaign back in 2016 was he wasn't accepting corporate donations. I mean, when I was a kid, they called that graft. Now they call it lobbying. No, I don't want, I don't want any of these special interests funding political campaigns. So I sent my $27 to Bernie Sanders, and what do I get? I get a receipt from Act Blue. So basically, even though my intention was to donate to Bernie, I in reality donated $27 to the Democrat Party, who, in my opinion, are every time I think they can't get more hopeless, they find a way to get more hopeless. It's really, really awful. And again, I've said it many times. Elon Musk, in a moment of anger at Trump a few months back when they had their temporary trial separation, he was calling for a third party. I'm not sure if he's still doing that. No, Elon, we don't need a third party. I've advocated for a third party for a long time. But before we can have a third party, we need a second party. And we don't have a second party. And I am not a fan of unabated Republican rule. Not at all. They'll fuck it up just like anybody else would fuck it up. We need a strong opposition party. And to have a strong opposition party, we need a credible opposition party. And at the moment, we do not have a credible opposition party because of people like Jasmine Crockett and Maxine Waters and Alexandria Ocasio-Steinberg, whatever her name is. There's so many. Who's that guy that pulled the fire alarm? He pulls the fire alarm, and then he gets he doesn't win his congressional seat back, and he cries racism again. If everything's racist, nothing's racist, and doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. But I'm tired of voter ID laws being racist. No, it's an insult to black people. To tell you the truth, it's an insult to minorities. This is God, I hate using the word liberal as a pejorative. I really do, because I identified as a liberal most of my thinking life. But this is white liberals thinking that they could speak for minorities, and in doing so, they're trying to say that these minorities aren't capable of doing simple things like getting an ID so they could fucking vote. I know I've dropped a lot of F-bombs in this one. I'm getting it out of my system. Since I already crossed that line, I might as well like fucking just go for it. At this point, I'm pretty angry. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh yeah. So journalistic malpractice. BBC is the public broadcasting system of jolly old England, Great Britain. But maybe it's not so Great Britain right now for a variety of reasons, including the latest of the BBC. Now, why this has taken so long to come out, I have no idea. Apparently, the incident depicted is from January 6th, 2021. But I guess in front of the 2024 election, and I'm please don't take this as gospel. This is just what I've heard, that the BBC put together some kind of documentary or some kind of long ass ad that showed Trump's January 6th speech, except it showed, well, let me show you what it showed, because this is journalistic this leaves journalistic malpractice in the dust. And if you haven't heard about this or seen it, and this is the kind of shit that I deal with all the time when I'm arguing with people. So let's share the screen on that and play it.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
These clips.
Okay, I'm going to play that over again. So the first clip that you saw, that was what the BBC showed, and it sure as hell sounds like Trump is trying to rouse the rabble and do some violence. But so I'm going to play both again. Again, the first one is what the BBC showed, and the second one is what Trump actually said. And then this is only a 2-minute video, so I'm going to play the whole thing. Here we go.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you. And we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
These clips showing the edited and original versions of a Trump speech have caused a major crisis at the BBC. The BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, and Head of News, Deborah Turness, have both resigned amid mounting criticism that the broadcaster deceived viewers. The speech was part of an hour-long address given by Donald Trump before protesters attacked the US Capitol on January 6. The Telegraph UK published an exclusive report saying it had seen an internal BBC memo from a former external advisor. The memo suggested that the documentary had edited parts of the president's speech, so he appeared to explicitly encourage the storming of the Capitol. The speech that appears in the documentary stitches two segments together that were more than 50 minutes apart.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Trump took to Truth Social to celebrate the resignation news, posting, "The top people in the BBC, including Tim Davie, the boss, are all quitting/fired because they were caught doctoring my very good, perfect speech of January 6th. Announcing his resignation, Davie said in a statement posted on the BBC website, "Like all public organisations, the BBC is not perfect, and we must always be open, transparent and accountable." The resignations come at a difficult time for the BBC.
Okay. Election integrity, journalistic malpractice. So again, the splintering happened, but new alliances were formed. I found myself in the Jimmy Dore, Combo Couch, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate section of the of social media, and all that fell apart after October 7th when those people all came out as pro-Hamas, and I don't abide. So honestly, at this moment, that post talked about intellectual loneliness. It's not that I'm lonely, because I'm going to speak my mind. Here's the thing. Yes, I voted for Trump, but no, I am not okay with deporting people who've made lives for themselves here, who've worked here, who've worked hard, even worked soft, been here for years. It's the border jumpers. It's the people who came storming in the 4 years of the prior administration open border policy. That needs to be cleaned up. The criminals need to go. And it infuriates me on a couple of levels that they're going after these other targets. Is it collateral damage? Is it a mistake? First of all, it's wrong. It's morally wrong. And second of all, it's strategically wrong. ICE has a serious image crisis on their hands. And by doing that, all they're doing is lending some credible fuel to the fire. If they would just keep their eye on the prize and just undo the border violations of the previous 4 years, and maybe on top of that, get some criminals out, their image, I gotta believe, would be a lot. So sure, you have people on both extremes. You have people way on the right who are saying deport them all. I don't care. They came here illegally. Just crossing the border illegally is a crime in and of itself, even if it happened 30 years ago. And then you have the people on the left who say, open the border. Just anybody can come in. What's one world, one love, one this, one that, one ice cream cone for everybody. No, those are the two extremes. And just because I voted for Trump doesn't put me at the extreme. Let me say this loud and clear. I do not abide deporting people who've been here for a long time and made lives for themselves, had children, worked, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there should be a path. These people, shame on them to a certain degree for not taking care of the citizenship thing sooner. And there should be a path to citizenship for these people, and they need to be monitored and go with it. And at that point, if they stray, maybe there need to be consequences. But at this point, no. So I just want to make that clear. Doge. So again, I keep saying, great concept, bad execution. I am not for defunding ICE. I think we need ICE. I think if we don't have ICE, we might not have a country. I know that's a cliche spoken by a lot of people, but again, open borders means that this country, I've said this before, my apologies if any of the 4 people watching have heard me say this over and over again. But if you're for open borders and you lock your door at your house, you're a hypocrite, because this country is our house. And we need to be able to control who comes in, just like you in your nice suburban house have a right to control who crosses your front door threshold. So we as a people, as a nation, if we even are a nation anymore, have a right to control who comes in. So the splintering, the October 7th attack splintered the progressive movement in a big way. And now, and all this time, all the splintering was on the left, and the right were kind of sitting back laughing at the whole thing. But now there's major splintering on the right, because this guy Fuentes, a total Nazi, like serious, actual Nazi, gets on an interview with Tucker Carlson, who I once respected tremendously, and just weeks before, Tucker Carlson had Ted Cruz on, and Tucker went after him. He went after him hard and hot. But when he has Nick Fuentes on, he's asking all these softball questions. It might have been like Rachel Maddow interviewing Kamala Harris. No challenge, no follow-up, no nothing. He gave this mealy-mouthed, absurd, and platforming this guy. I'm sure Nick Fuentes has gained a lot of followers. Somebody that I've that I was close with in the Tulsi movement sent me a Nick Fuentes video in a direct message on Twitter. I've asked him a couple of times, why are you sending me that? I'm trying not to prejudge, but there's a possibility that he sent it because it's what he believes, and that's really, really scary. So anyway, Tucker Carlson interviews Nick Fuentes, and then people start criticizing Tucker Carlson heavily, and then Megyn Kelly has Matt Walsh on, and Matt Walsh gives this mealy mouth thing of, I'm not gonna criticize my friend. No, if you're his friend, you do criticize him. Tucker Carlson's not above criticism. The Tucker Carlson that so many of us liked, would have been the first to tell you he's not above criticism. So Megyn Kelly, Matt Walsh, shame on both of you for thinking that you're being a friend and loyal by not calling Tucker out on some really, really bad behavior. And Ben Shapiro is fighting the good fight, and so so anyway, there's a big rift now, and of course then you have Megyn Kelly saying, hey, we need unity, but in order to have unity, criticism has to happen, and criticism has to happen fairly. So I'm disappointed in Megyn. I'm kind of disgusted with Matt Walsh. I'm totally disgusted with Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes is beneath my content. He's what's left of a cockroach after the shoe gets to it. And Kate, you're forgiven for being late. It's okay. This is all on tape. Although I blathered so much at the beginning of this, there's going to be a lot of editing done before this is over. But if you rewind, I'm not sure how far back, you'll see there's a meme that I read that came from Texas Tony. It's worth reading. It really is. And so was the thing I read at the beginning from the Persian Jewess. And let me go through my Twitter bookmarks. And here it is, Bernie Sanders not happy about the government shutdown ending.
Healthcare premiums for over 20 million Americans by doubling, and in some cases tripling or quadrupling. People can't afford that when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for healthcare. Number two, it paves the way for 15 million people to be thrown off of Medicaid in the Affordable Care Act. Studies show that will mean that some 50,000 Americans will die every year unnecessarily.
Bernie, I am just tired of your fear mongering. I really am. It's even when you're telling the truth, you're lying. And God, Bernie, you're not looking too good. This is not the same Bernie Sanders that I passionately supported in 2016. This is the shell of a cuck that bent the knee to Hillary Clinton and demanded that we do the same. Here's an example. Here's some Charlie Kirk. So again,
I want to ask the question of you. What does it mean to be an American? Is it an idea or a history, a shared history, or is it a skin color?
Well, I mean, you could go back to the original founding fathers, the Immigration Act of, I believe it was.
What does it mean to be an American? Is it a skin color or something else?
So there's the current idea of what it means according to, the Hart-Celler Immigration Act and, all this bullshit that you guys spew. But if you go back to the original founding fathers, they intended this to be a European nation for white men of good stock and character. Yeah.
So can you show me, let me answer the question. Can you show me where in the United States Constitution it says that?
It wasn't in the Constitution.
It wasn't in the Constitution because they didn't believe it.
The founding...
You, sir.
You go, Charlie. You go. So he wasn't some maniacal extreme rightist. That's how he treated an extremist right there. Let's go on. This guy says, as a brown bloke with a beard, I was hard. Yeah, remember last week, I guess November 6th it was, that the Tel Aviv soccer team went to England to play a game, and the fans of the Israeli team were banned from the event. And then this happened outside the event.
Every match that the barbaric Israeli establishment or their teams are at, we will be at. Takbir! Allahu Akbar!
That sounded chillingly like something out of Germany from the 30s. This is what's going on in England now. Between that and the BBC and all the things we're hearing about rape gangs and all this other stuff, England is in big, big trouble. I'm so sorry. Adi, whoever this is, says, my time in New York City has come to an end. I've grown to love this city. It's had its ups and downs like any other place, but I've never experienced anything quite like what's happening right now. I love the USA with all my heart, so I'm staying. Just moving to a red state. For everyone in Florida, don't worry, I'm not heading your way. It's a bittersweet feeling, leaving behind so many amazing memories. I'm looking forward to making new ones. Just sad. Again, I talked about New York earlier tonight. And here we go. Here's a great example of looking out for the oppressed people of Palestine and having a manifest by disrupting a Philharmonic concert. Yes, it's the Israeli Philharmonic, so I guess that makes them fair game. But here's what happened in France, which also, by the way, is falling. So it looks like some people in the crowd were definitely on the side of the orchestra. That's good to know. I'm just going to you know what? This is an 8-minute long video. I'm going to go to any random spot. I talked about Nick Fuentes earlier. This is who Nick Fuentes is.
Pointing finger.
If we're going to say Hitler bad, then I'm going to say Churchill bad, and I'm going to say Roosevelt bad, and I'm going to say they're all bad. But if we look at him as a product of his time in that moment, we have to judge him with those things in mind.
Hitler was an incredibly ambitious, aggressive risk taker. Given your qualifications, would you thereby say that Hitler is a good leader?
It's indisputable he is. Indisputably. You could even say he's evil. He made Germany great again. Second semester, I got home in the spring and I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. The Holocaust didn't happen.
Okay, that's enough of this motherfucker. And again, and I'm talking to you if you're watching this because you've been on my podcast before. Why did you send me a Nick Fuentes video in DM? I'm willing to take into account the possibility that you sent it to me because of how ridiculous this guy is. But if you sent it to me because there's even a shred of you that agrees with this guy, God, I hate to cancel people, but Nick Fuentes is a bridge I cannot and will not cross. So, I guess I'll close with this last one. I'm a big proponent of women's rights, actual women, and women shouldn't have to put up with. I got into a debate with somebody I really, really respect, and we're talking politics. And all I was trying to do, and I've said this before, when you're discussing politics with somebody who fundamentally disagrees with you, the best thing to do is search out some points of agreement. So I had about 15, 20 minutes of that kind of conversation with this person, but then we started getting into some disagreements, and I pointed out the whole men and women's sports things, and especially men and women's locker rooms and being forced to undress in front of a man who has not had bottom surgery and is standing there, So her answer to that, when I was clearly stating an objective truth that this is wrong, her answer was, well, it's not as important as world hunger. So I can't argue with that. No, it's not as important as world hunger, but what does one thing have to do with the other? So anyway, here's something that happened last week. Yeah. Apparently a biological man was in the locker room at Gold's Gym, and this brave woman was not having it, and let's hear what she has to say.
I just had the worst experience ever at the gym, at Gold's Gym, and I think this is probably happening at gyms across America, where trans women are going into the women's locker room and not really caring about how women feel about it. And it's really hurtful, yo. Like, how you gonna say you want to be a woman or that you are a woman, but you don't give a fuck how women feel? Today I was naked in the locker room. I turn around and there's a man there in boy clothes, lip gloss, standing there looking at me. I'm butt naked. So the first thing I think is maybe there's a worker in here. Maybe I missed the sign. I say the word sir to say, sir, what are you doing in here? He goes, don't fucking talk to me. I'm a woman. I have a right to be in here. Immediately, I'm fucking pissed because I'm butt naked. I feel violated. I feel like weird. Like, I don't want to deal with this, right? So the girls are walking in and they're seeing the commotion and they actually chime in and say, yo, I don't know why he's in here. He's not supposed to be in here. And then I talk to the people that work at Gold's Gym and they don't really have anything to do. They just like, oh, we can file a report about it, incident report. What the fuck is going on? Like, listen, how can you say you're a woman or you want to be a woman and you don't care how women feel? That's nothing more manly than not giving a fuck about how women feel, I'd like to think. And I get it, like, everybody has their own things, and I don't want to say that I know everything about gay rights or trans rights. I'm a lesbian. I've been a lesbian my whole life. I treat people how I want to be treated regardless of whatever their sexual orientation is or whatever they decide. So I'm not transphobic, and I'm not homophobic. I'm not straightophobic. I'm not racist. None of these things. I just believe in treating people how I want to be treated. Why do you guys think it's okay for men to be in the women's restroom? And like, when is the cutoff point? Is it like, oh, you cut off your penis, you can come in here? Why aren't women making the laws? And if you really want to fucking be safe and feel good, why don't we just make trans restrooms? Because it ain't right. The way I feel right now. And don't come into my comments about he gay, he ain't looking at you. I don't give a fuck, bro. It's about a feeling, yo. Like, if you never been a little girl who been touched or been through some shit, you won't understand that feeling. And you've never been a little girl.
Never been a little girl. Riley Gaines jumped in and said, if we saw boldness like this back in 2020, this insanity would have never been allowed to fester like it has. God bless you for speaking the truth loudly. Listen to Tish. And, that meme kind of speaks for itself right there. And that's a good one about the government shutdown. You know, that's the thing, you know, over extending some questionable Obamacare policies beyond its expiration date. The Democrats were willing to withhold SNAP. And that's finally what got this thing solved, by the way, because the people wouldn't abide with people not getting their food stamps and their Medicaid and all that kind of stuff. I think it's probably that more. Well, who knows? Combination of that and people not getting paid for their work. So last one. I'm circling back once again to the Islamic Revolution of 1979. So this is from Neo Berg, and she says, girl in the front, I guess get the picture up there. Girl in the front was executed. Girl in the back fled to Sweden, where she lives in exile to this day. They both actively work towards and celebrate their own demise. I am begging the West to stop thinking this can never happen to you, because it can and 100% will. She posted this on October 28th, a week before the mayoral election in New York. And once again, I hope New York survives this. I hope either somehow it works out, or if it's not going to work out, let it get really, really bad, really, really fast, so he's kicked out of office by the spring, one way or another. But again, these two women, and again, the one on the left was executed, and the one on the right went into exile. They supported Khomeini's revolution back in 1979. So be very, very careful what you wish for. Do I have one more here? Oh, you know what? I don't think I really want to waste time on Alexandria Ocasio-Steinberg. So I'm gonna close Twitter, and that'll be that for that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last of my what do I have here? There I am. Well, okay, Comic Troy Kate had to go, so no, it's okay, no worries. Thanks for listening, Comic Troy Kate. Thanks for listening to the 5 who've remained. God, I've been blathering. It's kind of like an alarm goes off my head around the 1 hour mark that it's okay. Shut up, blathering boomer. Time to stop. So I will be back next Tuesday, but if the air traffic controllers go back to work, I might miss a couple of Tuesdays after that. I really do want to be with my loved ones for the holiday. So that's it. Once again, thank you all for listening. Those who watched it live, and those who are watching the probably majorly edited version. And I don't edit like the BBC does. I'm not going to change what gets said. I just like to clean it up because I do at times blather on incessantly. The boomer has blathered. Thank you very much for listening.